What if I told you Millennials and Gen Z are the hardest working generations in modern history? Serious. Yet they have 86% less purchasing power than baby boomers did at the same age? That's right. If a boomer could buy something for $1, you'd need almost $7 today for the same thing once you factor in wages, inflation, all of it. And you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not alone. Here's how we flip the script. Stick with me and share this stat with someone who needs to know the truth. Because by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly why your parents' money advice doesn't just fail. It could actually be costing you tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Welcome to Jim Invests. Let's get honest about the broken financial game. And more important, reveal the 5 next-gen money moves every young adult must know to start reclaiming wealth on their terms. Every generation has heard the line, "Back in my day, we walked uphill both ways to school." But here's the reality. The data finally backs up what Millennials and Gen Z have been feeling. The numbers are not only devastating, they're historic. Let's start with the financial move most people call the American dream: buying a house. The difference between generations is so stark it almost sounds made up. Picture this. In 1988, when the average baby boomer turned 33, the median home price was $110,000. Median household income? Around $22,700 per year. The home price to income ratio? 4-to-1. If you could somehow save every cent, in 4 years you'd have enough to buy a home outright. Some boomers were even able to purchase with just a year or 2 of wages. Imagine the freedom that brings. Fast forward, in 2022, Millennials turned 33 with a median home price of $433,000 staring them in the face. But a median household income that had only crept up to about $70,000. That's a home price to income ratio of more than 6-to-1. And historically, experts considered 5-to-1 healthy. At the peak of the 2006 to 2008 housing bubble, the ratio hit 7. And look how that played out. Now, for years, we've been above those bubble thresholds, and no one set off the alarm. Let's zoom out. Globally. In the United Kingdom, home price to income ratios over the last 10 years have hovered above 7. And recently, even closer to 9. If you're watching from the UK, yeah, you're somehow more financially boxed in than Americans. At least you get the consolation prize of national health care. Now comes the part that most people never see. The long-term trend. From the 1950s through to about 2005, wages and home prices tracked closely. But after 2005, home prices took off at a sprint, while income cruised along at a casual walk. Inflation makes this even crazier. Consider this. $100,000 spent on a home in 1990 equals about $377,000 today, inflation adjusted. But for everyday goods and services, that same $100,000 adjusts to $231,000. This means housing has not only outpaced wage growth, it's pulling away from inflation itself. It's as if the housing market joined an Olympic relay and never looked back. So how did this happen? Is it a secret cabal of real estate developers? Are Millennials just bad shoppers? Not exactly. Several demographic and economic forces collided to create this perfect storm. First, competition exploded. The U.S. population ballooned, creating far more buyers chasing the same number of houses. Demand shot up, but supply never kept pace. Second, boomers had a twofold income advantage: early marriage and higher likelihood to stay married, meant two paychecks pooling for a house from a much younger age. Compare that to today. Millennials are delaying marriage, and Pew Research says over 45% don't live with a family of their own, compared to just 31% in prior generations, and a mere 15% among the silent generation. That's freedom, but also means single incomes are stretched like never before, making home ownership dramatically harder. Think it's just a U.S. trend? Not even close. Globally, wealth-building milestones, like home ownership, are slipping out of reach everywhere that costs have skyrocketed. Now, step back and let this sink in. From 1955 to 2005, most people could expect raises to mostly keep up with rising costs. Since 2005, that contract has been shredded. But housing is just the first domino. Next comes education, a pillar that turned into a financial sinkhole. The cost of attending a four-year college has soared to $30,000 to $50,000 per year. Baby boomers worked part-time, graduated with little to no debt, and sometimes paid for school entirely with summer jobs. Today, Millennials and Gen Z are graduating with debt loads that look like mortgages. Student debt stands at $1.7 trillion. Trillion with a T. From 1991 to 2021, tuition doubled, and average student loan balances tripled from $10,000 to $30,000 per graduate. Worse still, 7% of borrowers have loan balances over $100,000. The size of an actual mortgage. And the value of that degree? The number of grads has ballooned by 250% since 1970. More diplomas, more competition for entry-level jobs. Now, even so-called starter jobs often require experience you can only gain by already having experience. It's a classic catch-22. Incomes, meanwhile, have refused to keep up. Average starting salary for solid jobs stuck at $50,000 to $60,000. And even then, many graduates have trouble landing that salary at all. If you're feeling squeezed, you're not imagining things. It's like trying to level up in a video game where the monsters get tougher, but you never get any new gear. But that economic squeeze doesn't end there. Let's talk about transportation. The average car payment today? Over $700 a month, with loans stretched nearly 6 years. That's longer than many people keep the car, let alone their cell phones. Boomers could buy cars with cash or, at worst, short loans. Today, it's a second mortgage on wheels. And it gets worse. Gas costs for millennials and Gen Z are 40 to 60% higher than what boomers paid in their 20s. Wage adjusted. Add insurance into the mix. $200 to $300 per month for under 30 drivers, especially in cities. That's nearly $4,000 a year just to legally keep 4 wheels on the road. And you're already shelling out $700 a month for the privilege. Now, imagine you're dealt an unexpected expense. Car repair, medical bill. What do? For millions, the answer is simple. Swipe the credit card. Credit card interest rates now run 20 to 25%. That surprise $800 car repair quickly snowballs. If you only make minimum payments, it'll cost you thousands before you pay it off. But here's the worst part. Older generations often believe these problems are the fault of so-called bad habits. Lattes, subscriptions, fancy dinners. Ready for some real math? Cut out every non-essential purchase. Live like a monk. Your sacrifices still wouldn't cover the wild jump in housing, education, and transportation costs. You could quit lattes for a decade, and it still wouldn't buy you a down payment in most cities. The math just doesn't add up. Throw in social media, the highlight reel effect, and young adults end up comparing themselves to others who seem to have it all. New cars, vacations, home upgrades. What's hidden? Debt, family help, or both. The pressure leads to more spending to keep up, trapping millions in an invisible cycle of debt and FOMO. And as if things weren't complicated enough, the gig economy, a supposed solution, has become a necessity, not a bonus. Sure, driving for rideshare or delivering food once meant extra money. Now, for millions, side hustles are the difference between making rent and disaster. And the blame? Still falling on young people, labeled lazy or entitled for working 2 or 3 jobs, managing relentless stress, still getting nowhere. It's like blaming someone for drowning while you're pressing them underwater. Here's what will keep you up at night. Retirement. Social Security, the backbone for prior generations, is facing major funding problems by the time Gen Z and Millennials retire. Traditional pensions have mostly vanished, replaced by individual retirement accounts that shift all the market risk onto the worker. While financial experts recommend saving 15 to 20% of income for retirement, housing alone often eats 40 to 50% of a paycheck. Let's get honest. That advice simply doesn't compute. Healthcare? Strike 3. Young adults today pay more for less coverage with higher out-of-pocket costs. One ER visit can wipe out years of careful savings. And starting a family? Childcare often costs more than the mortgage did for prior generations. Raising a child from birth to 18, over $250,000 before you even factor in college. Little wonder more young people are living with roommates into their 30s or delaying major life milestones, because those basic milestones are now luxury goods. And the psychological toll, from anxiety and depression to burnout, can't be separated from the financial crisis looming over every part of life. But, and this is huge, understanding the broken system is only step 1. The old generic playbook does not work. But there is a new way forward. Let's transition from the problem to the path. A framework I call the 5 Next Gen Money Moves. These aren't magic bullets, but they're the proven, practical, data-backed steps I see real people using to survive, adapt, and sometimes even thrive in a game that's been stacked against them. It's time to reclaim your agency with smarter strategies. Here are the steps. Step 1. Optimize housing. Don't buy a dream, buy a hack. Let's address the elephant. In many markets, housing costs will require 40 to 50% of your take-home pay. I see it all the time. Forget the classic 30% rule. It's as outdated as a VCR. So, what's the play? First, prioritize what you control. Minimize housing spend wherever possible. Move in with friends, rent a smaller place, or consider house hacking. Buy a multi-unit property, rent out spare room, or split living spaces. Remember, every extra $500 saved on rent is $6,000 per year back in your pocket. That adds up to $60,000 over a decade. For many, that's a down payment or a critical safety net. Here's a real example. Emily, age 28, was spending $1,800 a month on a 1-bedroom in a city. She started house hacking, found a 2-bedroom, rented the extra to a roommate, and dropped her net rent to $950. That one change saved her more than $10,000 in a single year. If you're spending over 40% on housing, type "struggling" below. I want to see how common this is and help build a community around solving the real problem, not blaming small luxuries. Step 2. Outsmart debt. Stack, slash, and escape. Let's move to debt, the weight that keeps millions stuck. Credit cards at 20 to 25% interest can trap even the most disciplined budgeter. Here's the roadmap. First, attack credit card balances with the highest interest rates using the avalanche method. List all debts, pay minimums on each, and direct every spare dollar toward the one with the highest rate until it's gone. Then move down the list. Even small extra payments can slash thousands in interest costs over time. For federal student loans, look for income-driven repayment plans or refinancing offers. If you're eligible and the math checks out, it does not always save money. Micro story. Mark, 29, had $34,000 in combined student and credit card debt. He committed to the avalanche plan, automated his payments, used his tax refund each year as an extra payment, and managed to eliminate his credit card balances in just 22 months. Saving over $4,000 in avoided interest. Why act now? Because every year you leave a high-interest balance untouched can cost you $1,000 or more just in extra interest. Time is literally money here. Step 3. Rethink transportation. Buy only what moves your life, not your ego. Let's talk cars. That $700 payment, it doesn't just move you from A to B. It quietly destroys your net worth. If you stretch that over a 6-year loan, you'll pay $50,000 to $60,000 for a vehicle worth maybe $15,000 at the end. Ouch. The key next-gen move: buy used, reliable, and pay off as fast as possible. Consider car sharing, ride-share credits, or even going car-free in cities where possible. Here's a snapshot. Jake, 26, bought a 3-year-old sedan for $13,500, paid it off over 2 years with payments under $600 a month, and then drove payment-free for 4 years. He took the savings and funneled them straight into an emergency fund, avoiding thousands in future loan and insurance costs. If he'd leased or bought new, he'd still be making payments and paying higher insurance even now. If you've ever sacrificed a vacation or night out because of a massive car payment, let me know your story in the comments and tag a friend who's wrestling with transportation costs. It's time to stop the debt cycle together. Step 4. Maximize your earning power. Don't just make money, multiply it. The traditional corporate ladder is being replaced by a jungle gym of gigs, side hustles, and creative careers. The opportunity: more streams equals more security. Not every side hustle will change your life, but picking up freelance skills, shifting to a higher-paying employer, or even leveraging gig work as a stepping stone can unlock extra cash flow. Real story. Tara, 31, was stuck at $49,000 per year in her marketing job. She spent 6 months upskilling in digital design online, landed her first freelance client, and was able to boost her side income to $1,200 per month within a year. With flexible hours she controlled. Urgency alert. On average, every year you delay negotiating a raise or changing careers in search of higher pay, you lose not just the immediate pay bump, but all the future raises you'd have earned on top of that. Over a 30-year career, whether you act now or wait just 2 years can easily mean a 6-figure difference. Step 5. Protect and grow. Automate savings. Insure wisely. Embrace change. Now, the last and most overlooked step. Make defense as much a priority as offense. Set up autopay into savings with even $50 a month to start. Yes, really. Build a basic emergency fund to buffer against those $800 car breakdowns that would otherwise turn into credit card nightmares. Shop for insurance, health, car, renters, from at least 3 providers every time your renewal comes up. Here's why. Jen, 27, switched health insurance providers after comparing options online, dropping her monthly bill by $80. That single comparison saved her $960 a year. She used the freed-up cash to build a $2,500 emergency fund. Money that protected her when she had an unexpected dental bill later that year. And here's one for your quote collection. Systemic wealth is broken, but opportunity didn't vanish. It just moved. The American dream didn't die. It just moved, and no one sent you the new address. It's time to stop asking for directions from people living in a different economy. If you want a fast reference checklist for these 5 next-gen money moves with bonus resource links, check the pinned comment right after this episode. Remember, these strategies are grounded in what's working for real people, but your situation will be unique, and individual results vary. Use this as a roadmap, but never as a guarantee. Let's recap. Instead of playing by the old rules and feeling defeated, you can. First, house hack or minimize rent to save tens of thousands. Second, use avalanche debt paydown to destroy high-interest costs. Third, treat cause as a necessity, never as a wealth destroyer. Fourth, build earning power with creative new income streams. Fifth, automate savings and insurance shopping to plug invisible leaks. Each year you wait to take action, the cost of inaction stacks up. Whether it's $10,000 in housing savings lost, debt interest compounding, or missed raises. But by making even 1 or 2 of these changes in the next 90 days, you start flipping the script and reclaim your shot at wealth, even in a broken system. Which of these realities, housing, debt, or career stagnation, hits you hardest? Comment below or tag a friend who needs to see these numbers. If you felt blocked by the system, drop "rewrite the rules" in the comments. Let others vote up the most relatable stories. And for the full 5-step checklist, including little-known programs, resources, and action tips, check the pinned comment and subscribe to Jim Invests right now. This is about rewriting what's possible together. Let's run it back. Millennials and Gen Z are not doomed by lattes or laziness. They're up against a system where every major cost outpaces wage growth, and classic money advice just doesn't compute. The Next Gen Money Moves framework. Optimize your housing. Outsmart debt. Rethink transportation. Maximize income, and fortify your defenses, gives you back agency, 1 move at a time. Here's your action plan. First, right now, scrutinize your housing cost and brainstorm even a minor step to lower it, or start a roommate search. Second, by the end of this week, list every current debt with rates and set up automatic payments, even if it's $5 above the minimum. Third, in 30 days, review your transportation contract or insurance for savings and investigate at least 1 additional income stream. Gig work, skill swap, or small freelance project. Fourth, by 90 days, automate your first recurring savings transfer and compare insurance quotes online. Sites like Policy Genius, NerdWallet, or your regional equivalent. If you keep tracking, by 6 to 12 months you can measure real progress. Down rent, shrinking debt, new income, fresh financial headspace. Most see at least 1 big win within the first quarter. So, if this resonated, here's what to do. First, subscribe and turn on notifications. Up next, I'm breaking down the most effective apps for budgeting and side hustles with real user results. Second, For the printable checklist with all 5 next-gen money moves, plus resource links, check the pinned comment below and claim yours free. Third, answer in the comments, what's your generational financial myth? Or what move will you make first? Remember, these tactics are for informational purposes. Your situation will be unique and individual results will vary. Change starts with seeing the real numbers, pushing back on bad advice, and working together. To my Jim Invests family, keep flipping the script, keep challenging the old rules, and I'll see you in the next round.